Good evening and welcome to Crawley Borough Council's Overview and Scrutiny Commission meeting of the 2nd of June. I'm Councillor Russell, Chair of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission. I would like to welcome new and returning members to the Commission's first meeting of the municipal year. Off script, on a personal note, I would like to thank the full Council for my election to Chair of the Commission, and I'd also want to ensure all members on this group of my absolute commitment to the role of the Oversight and Scrutiny Commission. I intend to make sure that everybody feels that they get a fair crack of the whip, and I hope they will let me know if they feel there's been any oversight in that regard. I would just have one request of all members. Obviously, this is my first meeting, and I'm new to the post, and if you could just bear with me as I settle into procedures and get people's names fixed. So, thank you. Back to script. There are no scheduled fire drills tonight, so in the event of the fire alarm sounding, please leave the building via the main spiral staircase and through the main reception doors. Once outside, please turn left and make your way to the fire assembly point located beyond the multi-storey car park on Exchange Road. If you're unable to use the stairs, please wait in the council chamber and you'll be guided by a member of staff to the evacuation lift. This meeting is being live streamed via the council's YouTube channel. The link to this is included in the agenda. Please note that there is no comments function available as part of the webcasting. The council is the data controller and will retain the data collected during this webcast. This will be done so that in accordance with the council's published data retention policy. Any members of the public seated in the public gallery should be aware that by entering the chamber, they are consenting to their image being captured by the automated camera system. Recordings will be used for webcasting and/or training purposes. Councillors are reminded to take note of what is displayed on the screens in the room, as this shows what is being recorded in the webcast. You can request to speak as usual in committees by raising your hand, to speak by pressing the button with the face and the microphone, so the green light will go on when you are live. So, without any further ado, we'll now start the meeting with apologies for absence. Have we received any apologies for absence?
None received, Chair.
Okay. Can I ask members of the meeting, are there any disclosures or whipping declarations? Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Chair. So I declare a personal interest, item 7, appointment to the West Sussex Health and Adult Social Care Scrutiny Committee as Cabinet Member for Public Health and Wellbeing. Thank you.
Councillor Hillier.
Yes, sorry. Yes, I declare a personal interest as an NHS Public Governor in the same item.
Thank you. Anyone else? On to the minutes. Are the minutes of the last meeting held on the 22nd of April approved as a correct record? I assume you've all had the chance to look at them. Are we all agreed? Agreed. Okay. Thank you. Right. Public question time? No? Okay. Right, as there are no members of the public, we will move on to reports. We now move on to consideration of the report on tonight's agenda, which is the Staff Welfare and Sickness Update report from Siraj Chowdhury, Head of Governance, People and Performance, Karen Burton, HR and OD Manager, and Joe Motorshead, HR Consultant. Councillor Noyce is also in attendance as the Cabinet Member for Resources. Previously, the Commission has received reports on staff sickness levels and wellbeing. The Commission since recommended that it receive an annual update on employee welfare, sickness and morale. Can you please, actually before I say that, could I thank the pair of you that we met last week for the very, very useful update and conversation we had. I found it very helpful, so thank you. So if you could now kindly present the report to the Commission, I'd be grateful. Thank you.
In 2021, the Overview and Scrutiny Commission requested information on how the organisation was supporting staff in the aftermath of the COVID-19 pandemic. In response to the report was presented to the Commission outlining the impact of staff sickness and the measures in place to support the workforce. The report was well received and the HR and OD manager was asked to provide a follow-up the following year this has since grown into a regular update to the Commission annually. Since the initial report, the focus has been on staff well-being, morale and sickness updates, and highlights the initiatives the organisation has initiated to support employees. And we have the officers are present to take questions. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Thank you for inviting us along to your first meeting. So nice to meet you. My name is Karen Burton. I'm the HR and OD manager, and this is Joe Mottershead, who's an HR consultant, and we both work together within the HR team. We report into Siraj as our head of service. We welcome bringing the reports to you because I think it really demonstrates the council's commitment and the councillors' commitment to staff and staff health, morale and their well-being. So although sometimes these things are rather uncomfortable and you might ask some searching questions, we'll do our best to answer those questions for you. But hopefully the report will give you the information that that supports the organisation with its workforce. So I don't know whether you wanted me to run through the salient points or whether you wanted to just go into questions. I'll be guided by you.
If there are any salient points, because we did run through a few things,
Yeah.
then it might preempt one or two
Yeah.
questions.
Okay.
But I'll leave that just to give what you think of the headlines.
Okay, thank you. In terms of the sickness figures that we've quoted in here, these are for the last financial year, so ending the 31st of March this year. What we categorise it in is when an employee reports as unfit for work due to sickness, they will then complete a self-certification form, or it will be accompanied by a doctor's certificate, which is commonly known as a fit note. And on those documentation will indicate the reason why the person's off sick. And in terms of our recording process, then we categorise that into specific categories. So we're under section 4.2, by way of example, viral infections will be things like flu, colds, that type of thing. So that was one of our biggest reasons for sickness absence during 24-25 for viral infections. Stress, depression and mental health. We are not alone in terms of this being a high impact on employees in all industries and in all environments, and that's at 14%. And then our next one is categorised as stomach, kidney or liver, and that's at 13%. One of the things that we try to do in terms of when we're aware of the sickness types is to look at what support measures we can put in place to try and help people, to prevent people from becoming ill. So, for instance, the flu vaccination programme, that is rolled out every year, and we generally start rolling the communications for that in around August, September time to get people ready for those winter flu vaccinations. We get a reasonable uptake on that, and of course, if you're over 65, you can get your flu vaccination free through the NHS, as you can if you have a medical condition. So not everybody will take the offer up that the council provide, but we do support that, and we do give people the time out to attend those appointments. In terms of support outside of sickness, we run a lot of learning and development opportunities. So we have a range of L&D programmes. So some of those are conducted in-house, some are so in person, and some are online sessions. So we do a range of those. One of the things that we have been trying to focus on is things around financial awareness, really, because of the financial and living crisis that we're all experiencing at the moment. So it's around signposting and money saving tips, etc. In terms of support for our managers, who then obviously can support their employees, as set out in 4.7, we have established an essential training programme for managers, and they've been sort of the key employee relations topics, so managing the sickness absence, discipline and grievance, managing performance, so that's performance of the individual output, investigation training, and equality, diversity and inclusion training. We're taking that to the next step now, so there'll be other essential training for managers, but we're looking at a programme for essential training for all colleagues as well throughout the organisation, and we're working on that at the moment. We do work with an organisation called Sussex Training Consortium, and this is basically a partnership with some local authorities within our region. And really what that does is that helps us to procure specific training that each of those organisations have recognised, and then there's a coordinator who's actually based in another local authority who actually procures, and we can get, you know, a good costing in terms of what those sessions we pay for. So in the last financial year, employees through that STC, so the Sussex Training Consortium, took up some of the sessions as listed there in 4.11, so overcoming overwhelm, which helps support with people's mental health and managing situations. The menopause mind, we've had quite a big take up on that one, and along with menopause demystified. They've offered some practical sessions on mindfulness as well, so that's not quite meditation, but mechanisms and techniques to focus on. Personal resilience, and then there's the two for the Foundation for Financial Wellbeing and the Foundation for Personal Financial Planning. And we do try and encourage people to do the two of those if they're entering into that. And then we roll out mental health awareness as well through that mechanism. I think if I ask Joe to come in at that point, because Joe can cover some of the other mental health awareness specific training that we've been offering.
Hello everyone, just want to echo Karen's thanks for inviting us this evening. So in terms of the mental health initiatives, last September, October time, a paper was taken to the corporate management team and to the people board for proposals to review the mental health initiatives that council offer. And as a result of that, we are currently in the steps of implementing those proposals, which are ensuring that all managers attend essential training on mental health, so that they have awareness not only for themselves, but also in terms of other people. So, because obviously they'll be managing staff, so they can look out for potential signs to spot in their staff if they are struggling. We're also going to be rolling out a mental health awareness module for all employees as part of our essential training for all staff, as Karen mentioned. We've also done refresher training, full refresher training for our mental health first aiders. So now we've got a cohort of 5 mental health first aiders across the authority. And we're going to be working as a group to see how we can promote and sustain and encourage mental health awareness and promote our initiatives across the organisation moving forward. And this week we are going to be launching a mental health and wellbeing survey to gauge people's uptake in terms of, you know, what initiatives they've currently used that are on offer within the council and also externally to the council, including, as Karen mentioned, the courses that are on Sussex Training Consortium. We also offer some mental health courses on our CBC Learning portal, so it's getting sort of feedback in terms of the uptake on that as well, and finally to see if there's any other improvements that we can make to our current offering once we've got that results from that back. So we're looking to have that survey go out until the end of June, beginning of July, And then what we will do as mental health first aiders is we'll have a look at those results and see what we can do to sort of revamp and improve our offering to the council. So we also, so this year we've also continued to offer the counselling service as well. So the uptake for that has been good as well. In terms of numbers, it's been quite consistent with previous years. So for example, this year we've had 26 employees take up counselling, and 5 of those people that have taken up counselling have had extended counselling sessions. So our initial offer is a group of 6 sessions, after which, if the counsellor feels that the employee would benefit from an additional 6 sessions, they would put that as a business case to us, and more often than not we would approve that. So we've had 5 examples and situations where employees have had 12 sessions. So we've found those that have been quite successful. The council also offer a reflective practice programme. So at the moment we've got a group of 6 managers who have been undertaking that reflective practice programme with the counselling, looking at resilience, etc., to work as a group of managers to see around building up their resilience and using it as a session to get hints and tips from each other, as well as sort of support and advice from the counselling service to help themselves in the workplace. We've also just launched, one of our teams in the council have also launched a similar programme, but specifically for the teams, which is only just kicked off, which is hopefully going to be beneficial to them as well. So the reflective practice is a total of 12 sessions, 1 per month, with a maximum of 90 minutes. And anecdotal feedback that we've received today after the 5th session is that they are proving quite very popular with the managers that are part of that programme at the moment. Yeah, sorry.
Some other initiatives that we've been working on as well is in terms of lone worker and safety, and our health and safety advisor, the council's health and safety advisor, along with Siraj, have rolled out the lone worker devices. So these are little gadget machines that people will take with them. So if they're going into visit a property or a visit to residents alone, then they have that protection. So if they are worried about their safety, or if they're taken poorly, then there's a mechanism. You press the button and it goes through to a control centre basically, and they will have your contact details on there, so we can get some support and some help out quite quickly. So that's been rolled out to a number of staff. I think it's about 200 and did we say 294 employees have taken that up. So it shows the diversity of the workforce and how many people that we employ do actually go out into the community. And that's I think there were 2 people in today, actually, into the office today picking theirs up. And what happens when they get issued with the fobs, the health and safety advisor will go through how to activate them, how to not activate them, because sometimes people are activating them by sitting on them in the van. But in some ways that's not a bad thing, because at least it tests actually the system and it works. Okay, so under section 5 there is a descriptor there around how some of our front-facing staff are finding challenges from members of the public, and you will have noticed from coming into the building that there is a security guard now, which is unfortunate that we've had to go to that measure, but it is to protect our staff, but also to protect other clients that are coming into the organisation. We've also had some information through from both the contact centre and some other colleagues within other divisions, that what we are finding is that clients' approach and attitude to some officers are becoming rather intolerable. So we're looking at some of the measures that we can put in place to protect our staff and mechanisms for them to disengage with conversations or with in-person meetings if they're not going the right way, really. The next part that we wanted to sort of mention really was around the council's transformation plan. So part of the work that Siraj and I have been doing on there is we're part of the transformation board, and we've got some areas there that we've made a commitment to. One is around recruitment and retention, the well-being, and also around our learning offer. So we're working through that on a programme. We're also saying in there that, we are committed to providing managers and employees with the right tools for the job and improving the HR technology and digital skills, and this will be through our revised system for our HR and payroll system. So what we're intending to do with that is to incorporate some self-service modules on there. So basically what that will do is it will give managers the ability to be able to look at information in relation to the staff that they're responsible for. They'll be able to upload documents, they'll be able to see sickness, absence, reporting, all in that real-time basis. They don't have that facility at the moment, but also extending that out to employees. So an employee will be able to change their address details if they move house. They'll be able to have a look at their job description. They'll be able to see their application form or their CV that they made to us at the moment. That's all, if you like, hidden. And if somebody wants to have a copy of their application form that they made to us, they need to make that request. We'll also be using a time and attendance module as well, so people will be able to log their working times. They'll be able to make applications for annual leave, and going back to the sickness, if they are unwell, they'll be able to report in that way as well and complete the forms through that electronic process. Anything else on that one? Okay. And really our final section on there comes under section 8, and this is really looking forward to the proposed reforms, so the local government reorganisation, which is going to impact every one of us within this environment. And what we're saying here is that we will need, as an organisation, and CMT have bought into this around strategically about our retention of key staff, how to provide opportunities for skills and development opportunities for people to ensure that they are job ready for the jobs that they're doing now, but also that we can get them prepared for any of those potential changes that are going to come through when we go on that journey of that local government reorganisation. Of course, there's uncertainty at the moment for staff and councillors, and one would expect with any large-scale change programme that there will be fears and morale may be impacted negatively. But what we need to do as an organisation is pull together and look after each other, but also ensure that our staff are ready for those significant changes. Okay, I think that was everything that I wanted to cover in the paper. So quite happy for Joe and I to take questions. If I can't answer them, I'll pass them to Joe.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. Do any councillors have any questions? Councillor Hilly and then Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you very much for the update. It has answered a couple of questions that I was going to ask as well. Just a couple of things, really. Are we seeing any issues in relation to recruitment, given that we've now openly gone out to say about the restructuring, and I think more of the staff will be aware of it than the last time we spoke about this in a meeting, and is that having any immediate impact? That's first thing. And the second thing is, I was going to ask you about the are we on target for the launch of the survey, sort of thing, which you've clarified, thank you. But also, what is the date of the analysis of that, and how will that be fed back to not only staff but also to ourselves as well? Because again, I think the impact of the restructuring and everything could have kind of a knock-on effect on that. And also, it's just on the flu vaccination that you mentioned. Will that include COVID at all, given that the government have changed who's eligible for that? And I'm just aware in the past we've had a lot of problems, obviously, with sickness relating to COVID. So they're my questions. Thank you.
Thank you. If I take question 1 and question 3, and then I'll ask Joe to cover on the survey. So in terms of recruitment and retention, at the moment we're not seeing a big exodus in terms of staff leaving us. That's a difficult one to predict whether that will actually happen. We do monitor our figures and our turnover and our recruitment. We also have a look at how many people are leaving after so many years of service with us. And what we have picked up over the last couple of years is that we do have a few leavers that leave us within that first year when you would probably expect them to stay. Now, some of that is down to the fact, I think, that there's been a lot of people applying for jobs, and I think a lot of people apply for more than one job and go for whatever they can take, and then sometimes they look for something else because they've got lots of things out at that moment in time. Some of the reasons are also that we've had some people that have left us through probation, the probation period. Now, there's two ways you can look at that. People can leave through the probation period because it's just not work for them, or they can be released through the probation period from the organisation's perspective if they're not up to the reasonable requirements of the role. So that is something, the whole recruitment and retention is something that we've got on our radar to keep a check on. But again, I think going back to the earlier point around the development and the commitment and all the essential training that we're putting in, I think that will hopefully retain some of the members of staff that we want to retain, and because we're investing in them and we're giving them those opportunities. But I think you're right, it is one to watch, definitely. Yeah.
Just to add to that, Chair, in terms of the numbers, I think the question directly, and we haven't seen significant numbers of people leaving directly due to kind of local government reorganisation. It's early days. I think it wouldn't be anyone's sole reason at this point. But what we are, I think, planning to do is tweak our exit survey so that if that is a reason, it will start popping up on the survey and we'll get some tangible data then. So in answer to your question, we'll obviously be looking at that data, and if there's something kind of significant that shows a trend, we can certainly report it back to the Chair.
And then the other question was around the flu vaccination programme. And in terms of who we offer that to, is we would offer that to all employees, and we do that over a period of time so that it's not a sort of a one-hit wonder, you miss that opportunity. And equally for our external workforce, predominantly they are I'm sure you all know Karen Ram, the Neighbourhood Services Manager. Karen is very good at coordinating and encouraging her managers to remind people to sign up for their flu vaccination. So it's probably all we can do really on that one.
So in answer to your questions around the health and mental health and wellbeing survey, so we're expecting, as I say, it to go live this week, and then I'm hopefully going to be kept up to date with the results that as and when they come through, so I can sort of analyse the trends and to see what things need to be improved, or where things need to be amended, or, as I say, as improved. I think for me, one of the key things of doing this is to try and raise awareness anyway. So if we get results where, you know, uptake is not as what we expected, you know, my experience, not just as a mental health first aider and doing this this initiative, but also as an HR consultant, I feel that not a lot of initiatives are being used and, you know, by managers as effectively as maybe they could be. So one of the hopes for me personally is that this will raise awareness, you know, in terms of the resources that we've actually got in the council, because I think as a council we've got a huge depth of resources which is available, and it just needs to be, you know, given that push. So what we're hoping to do, I mean, this is going to be an annual survey. So, you know, once we've analysed the results and we can make improvements, we'll be doing another survey the same time next year, and hopefully at that point, you know, we'll see an uptake, you know, in terms of the, you know, training courses on CBC learning, you know, the Sussex Training Consortium, even the external resources that we have as well. So, you know, that's the plan for myself, and I know talking to other mental health first aiders, that's the hope that they, you know, that they're looking to as well. Hopefully that answers your question. And in terms of the communication, sorry, one thing that it does say in the report is that once we've done the results and we've revamped it, a comms will go out corporately to let everyone know, you know, that it's been looked at and things have been, you know, updated, you know, in line with the feedback received. Thank you.
Before we go to Councillor Pritchard, could I welcome Councillor Adani? Are there any interests to declare at all? Okay, thank you. Councillor Pritchard.
Thank you very much, Chair, and welcome to your new role. Having looked at this report, I think it's quite remarkable. I've taken the time to go back through previous reports. I sat on this commission in 2022, so I remember the format of the reports, and this is my first visit back to the commission since then. Looking at this year's report compared to last year's report, last year there was a 29% sickness rate due to, get the term right, stress, depression and mental health. This year that's 14%. That seems to be a remarkable turnaround in a year, and all credit to you for that. What is harder to find is overall sickness trends in maybe not reporting numbers of days sick, but whether there's 5% fewer days taken sick this year than last year, or if it goes up on a year-on-year thing, just so we have a feeling of the general health of the workforce. And also maybe a breakdown of all the categories, because these seems to be quite broad categories, which is fine for reporting, but maybe a list of all the categories so we can see which ones are going up and which ones are going down, not necessarily just the top 3 that are coming out, and might give us a bit of an idea of where we are. But the report otherwise is quite comprehensive and good. One other point I want to pick up from the lone working. I'm a train driver by trade. We have a lot of lone working in my industry too. Your devices that the staff carry, are they GPS enabled? Will it pinpoint to someone, so if they were incapacitated for any reason, they can't be contacted, we know where they are at least? No, that's good. Thank you.
So was there any response to any of those, or sorry? I think there was the question about percentage changes.
Yeah. So in terms of the sort of, we have got the top 5, I've got the top 5-6 reasons here going back to 2021. So we do see, I mean, we've got like 2021, we've got stress, depression, mental health, we've got other musculoskeletal reasons, operations, COVID-19 isolation, COVID-19 sickness, work-related stress. And as we go into the next year, those reasons sort of, you know, are within the same sort of top similar. Obviously, we've got stress, depression, mental health, 28% in 2021. In 21-22, that goes down to 16%. Other musculoskeletal is within the, you know, the top 2 as well. So there is, over the sort of the top 5 reasons, they do look, you know, looking at this data here, they are consistent. I would say the only change really in the last sort of couple of years is the stomach, liver and kidney. That's become more more popular is probably the wrong word, but more prevalent in the last 2 years. So that's sort of in 23-24, 6%, and in the last financial year, that's 13%. So we've seen an increase in that in the last 2 years. But overall, the reasons, as I quoted at the beginning, have remained consistent.
Can they be reported in table format for future reports, so we can see compared to previous years? Or I don't think going back to 2021 will be very helpful, but the previous year and current year each time would be handy.
It's just worth saying that there's been, on terms of long-term sickness measured by days, it's been a 30% decrease from last year to the last recorded. So I think that's worth. We have seen an uptick on shorter term of around 11%. So there's some work to understand that, but the focus is very much, as you've heard from the programmes, been on those long term and getting those down, because that's where most days are lost. So there's been some good progress, and now the focus on trying to keep it there.
If I could just come back onto those categories, the CIPD, which is our professional body, each year they produce a report on sickness absence, and it's done in conjunction with an organisation called Simply Health. And the last report, it was for sickness in up until 2023. So another one will be out later this year for the next year. But the top 3 causes for short-term sickness, 3 reasons: minor illnesses, which covers things like colds, stomach bugs, that type of thing, musculoskeletal and mental ill health. And there was a note to say that 63% of employers report that mental ill health, which covers anxiety and depression as well, is within the top 3 of 63% of organisations that responded to that survey. In terms of long-term health, it was mental ill health, acute medical conditions such as stroke or cancer, and the third was the musculoskeletal. So you can see that there are similarities in terms of our high reports there as well. So we do like to keep a check on what's going on in other industries as well. I think the other thing to sort of say really in terms of our focus, and I've written it down here so I could quote it to you, is really around looking at what those sickness, what people are presenting to us in terms of sickness, but also we've got a workforce that there are some people who come in and maybe they should be off sick, but they come in. So it's also being mindful around what conditions people are coming in with, so is it the cold, it's the flu type symptoms, in order for us to be able to support and put things in place. So it's really understanding the reasons for the absence and supporting the employee and their well-being. We've got support from our occupational health service, so of course employees will be asked to go to occupational health, and that's whether they're off sick or whether they may be in work but present with a condition that we would need some support, interventions, reasonable adjustments, all of those sort of things. We look at stress risk assessments, we look at job risk assessments, so that we can consider is the type of activity aggravating the condition. And then it's obviously looking at the matrix as well. So the figures are great, and the stats are good to look at, but actually it's understanding the drivers, the behaviours, and all of those sort of things that we can help work with employees to improve their attendance, and also to try and prevent people going sick in the first place. So a lot of measures are around preventative as well, and that goes into the counselling service. A lot of people that take the counselling service up are not off sick, but it's a mechanism to try and prevent that sickness. And the reflective practice as well, that's around, as Joe explained, that's around people understanding how their resilience can be tested, if you like, and what mechanisms they can put into place to be able to support those challenges that they might be faced with within the workplace. Thank you.
Were there any other questions from councillors? Councillor Khan?
Thank you, Chair. Just a couple of questions. Your surveys, just wanted to find out if they're anonymous, so your staff obviously can't have the details given out.
So yeah, they will be anonymous. There is going to be an option on the survey to let us know what department they're in, but that's optional. It's not compulsory. It's just to get an idea in case heads of services ask around any of the feedback. But other than that, it will be anonymous.
And the uptake on your surveys, do you find the percentage is quite high on the number of people responding to the surveys? And have you questioned them if the survey response isn't high as to why staff might not be responding to a survey?
Not at the moment. One of the things when we, as a mental health first aid group, we did look at sort of uptake previously and thought about doing the survey, but we thought that actually at that particular moment in time, for that reason, in terms of being anonymous and not wanting to go forward, we thought it wasn't the right time. But because we're now looking at the whole package, we felt now's the right time to do it. And by anonymising it and looking at not just the counselling, but looking at the bigger package in terms of training, etc., it would be less sort of the perception that people might feel like it's probably the wrong word, but sort of there's a stigma around mental health, and it's like they don't want to do it. So we're not just focusing on have you had mental health problems? We're sort of saying, have you spoken to your manager if you've had a problem, or have you accessed training on mental health, or those sort of things. So we're keeping it quite general rather than digging hugely down into that. I think depending on the results this year, and if we do a survey next year, we might have to look at whether we do the same survey or something different. But at the moment, it's just keep it quite broad, because we feel that more people are going to respond if it's quite general at the moment, because that's what we're looking at in terms of the general initiatives that we're looking at.
Okay, thank you for that. And just another question. I looked at your frontline staff, the sort of abusive behaviour from the public on the phones, on the mobile phones, and could you just explain what your current process is and what sort of support the staff currently get as with abusive behaviour, especially on the mobile phones? Like you said, you can't record them. I just wanted to find out what the current procedure is for that.
I think in terms at the moment, it's the general customer interface training that's carried out, and the contact centre itself, they run some have some courses that they would run specifically for managing those difficult conversations. But what we want to do is to see if there's anything that's more meaningful in terms of the type of issues that they're being faced with at the moment. So that's a piece of work that's been undertaken, and we understand that Crawley Homes have actually looked at some of that. So we're pulling together with the contact centre to put something together. So it's early days yet, really. But I think the important thing is that it's been recognised that there is an issue here, so that we do need to have a look at that. I think
we've got a contribution here as well.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's also worth saying that we don't generally hand out mobile numbers for customers. Into the mobile use is usually more officer to officer, and where it is used, it goes kind of through our contact centre and teams in order to get through. So the soft sales in many respects. So they would generally come under. So you wouldn't normally, I'm not saying that it never happens, but you wouldn't normally get a member of public accessing a member of staff via a mobile phone.
Okay, thank you very much.
Just to add to that point, just to cover it off, if there is an incident, whether it's on a phone or in reception, if there is a particular incident, there is a kind of obviously a review of what's happened. It's reported and logged as a health and safety issue from the staff perspective, and depending on what's happened and the extent of it, there could be an investigation internally from a health and safety perspective. But what we try to do is do some learning from the incident. If it requires further action, warnings, potentially people being excluded from the building, those steps, there's a protocol in place. There's a set of terms and conditions for the reception area. So there is a process in there. And obviously if staff are affected by the incident, they have access and they're kind of signposted to some of the services that have been talked about already to give them that support post-incident. Thanks.
Councillor Lanza.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you for the report. Just referring again to paragraph 5.1, which is about abusive behaviour. I just observed that a number of organisations have a fairly clearly stated policy that if certain lines are crossed and penalties are needed, then those organisations will, as a matter of policy, push for the strongest possible penalties. Do we have a similar kind of message of reassurance for our staff to that?
Yes, as I said, Councillor, we've got the protocol, we've got the terms and conditions of entry, and it's treated on a case by case. But yeah, if people get warnings, we will look at what action can be taken. Normally, if they've breached the terms and conditions, they've been excluded from the building, and they've come back to try and gain entry or abuse staff. We have looked at options, things like injunctions. But again, it's on a case-by-case basis. It's in the round, look at the evidence. So if someone's come in, there's been an incident. We've got CCTV, as you know, downstairs in reception. So potentially there's quite a strong level of evidence. But also we work quite closely with the police. If there has been an incident, we'll liaise with them and see what action they may potentially be taking as well. Because very often if the police are called, it's about response times and how quickly the police can get to us to assist our staff. But if there have been serious incidents, we have looked at all potential options in terms of protecting staff.
Okay, I think we've got one more. Yep.
Yeah, thank you very much. I've gone through this report, and it's quite detailed, and you've made mention of some instances where you've had some training, ongoing workshop for staff, and some of them are on blood pressure and other issues like well-being and all that. Do you have any program for actual workplace emergencies like heart attack? Who are the first responders? If you have AEDs around the building, how many do you have? Are the staff aware of what to do? And if there is an emergency, because sometimes when you call the ambulance, it takes forever for them to respond. Even if you are working directly opposite an A&E, they will still not come to you. So if there is an emergency involving the staff, do you have a kind of outlined procedure that everybody is familiar with, the number to call, and also who are the first responders? And for AEDs, how many do you have? And are the staff, some of them, like the first responders, are they aware of what to do in that particular instance before the arrival of the ambulance, to attend to the particular emergencies?
So thank you for the question. We have first aiders in the building. Okay. Generally tends to be our facilities team. Okay. Because in the old ways of working, the old town hall, we used to have people from different teams who were appointed first aiders around the building. But now, because we work hybrid, sometimes people are in the office, sometimes they're working from home or another site. So the facilities are our primary first aiders. They would be the port of call, first port of call. In terms of aids, is that defibrillators? Is that what you're referring to? Well, there'll definitely be one down in reception. I think what we would take is probably your question's a good one, and we could probably do a bit more on awareness for the general staff to say, in this situation, this is what you would do. I think most people would know that, most staff would know that, but we'll take that on board and just to raise awareness on that.
Okay, I think no more questions. All the councillors and members have had an opportunity to speak. I'd like to thank the officers for the report. There is one little anecdote I'd share, if I may, with the Commission. We had, as I say, an extensive conversation last week, and we talked about mental health, and that is, I think, an issue that lots of us are trying to grasp in society and taking it seriously. And I just love the idea that you've got the mental health first aiders with they have lanyards, so that actually you don't actually have to walk through a building and find someone and tap on an office door if you want a conversation. You can have a discussion over a cup of coffee when you see someone sitting there with a lanyard, just to make that first step, which I thought was absolutely fantastic. But anyway, so thank you very much for the report. The recommendation is that the Commission receives the report, notes the progress and the actions that have been acknowledged, and the minutes and questions and suggestions have been taken and documented by the officers. I ask that the Vice Chair second that.
Yes, I second that.
Okay. Is that agreed? Okay, lovely, thank you. Right. Moving on to the next item, I'm pleased to welcome Councillor Jones, Leader of the Council, to update the Commission on the Leader's portfolio and the roles and responsibilities, with a particular focus on the Council's finances and obviously its future as well. I'll hand over to Councillor Jones prior to the Commission wanting to ask any questions, and thank you again to officers for the earlier report.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you for inviting me here today to speak to the Leader's portfolio. As you know, I'm a regular attender, but I haven't been asked to update on my portfolio responsibilities to date, and I welcome that opportunity. It has been a challenging, but in my view, highly successful year, with hopefully another to come. We are a good council. We're delivering at a scale of ambition and vision for our size that should be the envy of others. But because it's a wide and diverse portfolio, I'll speak to each of the responsibilities in turn. But for some of them, unless you wish to raise specific areas, I won't go into that much detail. So for each, I'll provide a few headlines highlighting either achievements, key statistics, or direction of travel. So we'll start with the overall staffing of the council. OSC will have heard much on this under item 5, so just a few additional points. The total headcount of the council is 584 people, or 449 full-time equivalents. The turnover rate in 24-25 was 12%, which falls within the healthy rate that the Local Government Association states is a typical rate. That's between 12 and 15%. Our staff's welfare is important to me, and I know all members. So we've seen a significant fall in long-term sickness rates of 30% in the past year following concerted action. I think that's to be welcomed. The last staff survey was in 2022, and we're planning to undertake another survey in the not too distant future. The last survey happily showed strong confidence in leadership and a good staff culture. As has been mentioned earlier on by Karen, there is uncertainty in relation to local government reorganisation, and that's likely to grow as the boundaries are set and the design of the new councils begin in earnest, and we start to see that taking shape and it starts to become more real. There's also issues of workloads and the implications of financial challenges, also considerations as we have fewer staff as time goes on and fewer resources. That means that the services we can provide either decrease or they become more stretched. In terms of governance, the Council's produced its annual governance statement. Significant work has been undertaken to strengthen that document over recent years, making it easier to navigate and making it more action-oriented. I'm pleased to say that the external auditor found no risks of significant weaknesses in arrangements identified and no actual significant weaknesses in arrangements identified. In terms of mayoralty and ceremonial matters, I'm not going to say too much here as members had the chance to discuss the previous mayoral year at the AGM, and they were in agreement, I think, that it had been a successful year. I think one of the key innovations was holding the mayoral reception following the Crawley Community Awards event, which was highly successful, and we anticipate taking forward in future years. I also want to highlight the Alderman and Freeman events, plus the sighting of the Stone Crest and bust of Alf Pegler on the mezzanine. I could also add the installation of the original leisure centre plates at K2 to show our historic commitment to sports and leisure, and the extension of our wall of sporting excellence at the same venue to show our commitment to past and present local sports people. The Unity event that we held earlier this year was an important event given tensions last summer, as was the marking of Holocaust Memorial Day in the Council Chamber earlier this year. In terms of communications, our new communications manager, Liz Ailbury, has joined us, and we're using this to try some new things. There is an increasing focus on strategic comms, campaigns and messaging to try and cut through. Obviously, this is mainly directed to residents and communities, but also to the government and other stakeholders, a good example being the recent ministerial visit. It's also about refreshing our communication channels with the staff, which will become increasingly important in the context of local government reorganisation. I think one of the examples would be, I think every Friday now, a weekly staff newsletter goes out via email, which keeps everyone up to date on some of the things that are going on, which I think is a really good idea, because there's an awful lot of positive, there's also a lot of positive news to pass on. In terms of finance, I've been asked to speak on it, and I'm clearly, obviously, happy to do so. It falls under my portfolio, all the range of financial related things: rating, business rates, council tax, funds and investment management, the budget, borrowing, potential fraud. The impact of demand for temporary accommodation and disproportionately bad funding settlements for Crawley over the past 15 years means the council continues to face financial challenges. This council receives less today in cash terms through government grants and council tax than it did in 2013, 2014. I think we need to be realistic about this. The previous government ran down the public sector, and it was never going to get reversed overnight. The money isn't there to do that. But we have to live with the financial situation that we have been given, and it's not there's no easy solutions. Given what's happening with temporary accommodation, for every £3 we receive from council tax, £2 of that directly goes on temporary accommodation before a single bin is emptied or a single blade of grass is cut. So, or any of the other traditional things you might expect from a council to provide. The total cost of providing our statutory services is £16.6 million, Chair, which is £2.7 million more than we receive through council tax and government funding. So to date, we've been able to manage these challenges through improved productivity savings, which is equivalent to about 15% of our net revenue budget, and developing appropriate income streams. And that's significant because at $9.5 million, our income significantly exceeds what we receive from either council tax or government funding. And this income undoubtedly means that we've been able to maintain frontline services to the standard we have. Despite this strong track record, we've just come through our toughest budget round yet and are reaching the point where savings are starting to impact on what we can deliver as a council. We did, however, deliver a balanced budget for 25-26 with a small contribution to the general fund of £88,000. There has been work on achieving savings for 25-26, and this is progressing, and members of the Commission will be updated as part of the Q1 budget monitoring report, which I think will be in September before it goes to Cabinet. The key risks of this next budget round are the business rates reset and whether the new burdens funding continues to meet our housing duties in relation to the Shigossian arrivals. I intend to write to the Minister later this week about that. It's too early to set this out in detail here, but we will be bringing forward the budget strategy to discuss with members earlier than we did last year. Some of the engagement last year was driven by the necessity rather than ideal timing. But the hope is that we get the medium-term financial strategy and the HRA 30-year business plan to the 8th of October Cabinet and to full council at the 22nd of October. I have to say that the 30-year business plan for the HRA will be a particularly significant development and something we've been working on with officers for quite some time. But clearly, we need to frame this all so that we can go forward in the future with the best plans in place, and we certainly aim to do so. In terms of finance and procurement, insurance has no significant issues, and the next update of key procurements will go to Cabinet on the 25th of June. As far as council-owned commercial properties are concerned, we've introduced a member asset group which provides oversight of decisions relating to commercial asset utilisation and deployment. And given the financial pressures that the council's facing, I'm keen to ensure that we maximise usage of our properties. So as part of this work, we will be reviewing where underutilised assets could help to provide a capital receipt, thereby supporting delivery of the capital programme, as well as supporting the general fund revenue budget as required. One of the things we're trying to do throughout all of this is to reduce our need for borrowing wherever possible. And this could mean disposing of underutilised assets, particularly where capital receipt offers best value. But any such disposals, Chair, will typically be Cabinet decisions and would come through the normal decision-making processes in due course. I'm responsible for the garages, which were a matter of some discussion a couple of years ago, as members might remember. Garages have been an area of focus over recent years, and the rent for garages has increased from a very low base, and that income continues to grow, and last year reached 3.27 million. Our occupancy rate is just under 82%, which allows us to look at the future use of the less popular sites, such as the plans for Deerswood Court, and the additional funding, however, does allow us to invest in the remaining stock. Our garages have reached a point in their natural lives where they do need some investment. Some of them are getting quite old. I'm responsible for civil contingencies. I can't talk too much about the nuclear bunker, but in terms of some of the other areas where we do have we have had experienced issues recently, the council's emergency planning capacity and resources were significantly tested over the course of 24, with the requirement to set up a sizable rest centre, humanitarian centre, to accommodate Chagosian nationals who otherwise would have been homeless. The duration of this provision did stretch the council's organisational capacity, however, but it did demonstrate a willingness from a wider body of staff to step up and support this requirement when required, which I think all councillors should be very grateful for. As with any emergency planning exercise, learning has been taken forward, and in particular, capacity to ensure a response can be provided over such an extended period is a priority for this financial year. I'm responsible for asset management. I'm going to talk about that in a bit more detail in a moment for key areas for future strategy. So I will address that. As far as the Shared Prosperity Fund, which comes under my portfolio, is concerned, we received £1 million over a 3-year period, 22 for 25, focused on those neighbourhoods that fall within the 20% most deprived nationally, which is Broadfield, Bewbush and West Green. This programme was due to come to an end, but happily we received one further year of SPF funding this year from the government of 327,416, which we will certainly put to good use. The activity for this year will focus on sustaining some of our existing projects and delivery, such as Employed Crawley, the Bewbush Learning Lab, which Councillor Ayling and I went to see open, and there will be youth outreach and after-school clubs in our target areas, which are much needed. So in terms of policy and strategy or responsibilities, the key areas for my portfolio, I believe, are the development of policy and strategy for the council and its expression in the corporate plan with the chief executive and liaison with the appropriate cabinet member. Joint work is underway between the Cabinet and CMT to set out a 3-year plan to take us through to the creation of a new council under local government reorganisation. This work recognises the additional pressures that the reorganisation will bring to design a new council, transfer our services safely, design new services and close down this council. At the same time, we want to ensure that the council continues to deliver for the residents of Crawley and that the legacy of this council is secured. And there will certainly be further discussions on this with members later this year. I mentioned the asset management strategy, including the corporate estate. This has been an area of significant focus in the past year or so. It follows the creation first of this building and then a focus on the depot and neighbourhood depots to provide modern and suitable working environments that aid productivity. The patch team's move to the various areas would be a key example of that. Work is underway to improve assets such as our community centres and our major assets in ways that continue to make progress against our climate change commitments. The recent investments in K2 are a good example of this, but we have an entire estate. I will be asking Councillor Noyce to work with Councillor Hilton in conjunction to look at what we can do to make all of our buildings far more energy efficient and decarbonised. So I look forward to progress on that. Work is now underway to update an investment strategy for the significant assets that we own. This will include ensuring that occupation and income opportunities are maximised where appropriate, as discussed previously. And as also mentioned, the Council is now considering disposal of assets where this makes sense to reduce future requirements for borrowing and to help manage the Council's finances in the best possible way. So all this needs to be balanced in the context of the local government reorganisation that I mentioned earlier, so that we hand over our assets in a managed and orderly way for any new authority to pick up without creating issues for either our residents or our tenants. So I finished there, Chair. That probably covers in quite some depth.
Okay, thank you very much. Obviously, it's an immense amount you could go through there. Do any members have any questions for Councillor Jones? Any questions from the floor? Sorry, I didn't see you. Councillor Lunnan.
Thank you, and thank you for the discussion, the introduction. I wonder just briefly what your thoughts are on the LGA corporate peer review. I don't know if we covered that in the talk. I don't think we did, but it's just we don't seem to have had any outcomes from that yet, and obviously it took place over 6 months ago.
Yep, thank you, Councillor Lunnan. In December, as you rightly mentioned, the Council underwent its corporate peer challenge. The report's yet to be finalised, but I understand there will be some suggested areas of improvement around governance. And of course, as and when we have that, we look forward to bring this forward to a future meeting of OSC. We're very open and receptive to what we can do to improve, and indeed I think some of the initial comments that were given to us at the end of the initial process we've picked up on almost immediately and worked and began work on. There will be an opportunity later in the year, I believe, for the peer challenges to return, and there'll be further dialogue then as well. But I anticipate that the report will be published, hopefully in not too distant future. But that's something that's still being worked through at the moment.
Councillor Lanza.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Still on and thanks for the presentation. Still on the corporate peer review. I'm familiar with the process undertaken by the Local Government Association, and it seems highly unusual that we've seen no public indication of feedback 6 months after the review was undertaken. And from what you've just said, it would appear that there's more time to elapse before we see anything whatsoever. And you're saying the report's being finalised. Who is it being finalised by? I mean, what kind of influence are you trying to bring upon the Local Government Association? Or is the local, because my understanding is the Local Government Association is not, with its corporate peer processes, is not that, does not look that favourably on challenges to matters of fact that it's unearthed in a review.
Can I bring in Ian Duke?
It has been slower this time around. I mean, the reality is every single person that's been involved in the peer challenge after the visit has gone through LGR, so it's taken a lot longer for the report to appear, the comments going back. Obviously, after the draft report arrives, there's an opportunity to come up with the factual and to put them back in. So were there are potential factual errors with the report, that is part of the process. We've made representations on that part, and that's been taken into consideration. So, yeah, we're currently in that process of getting to the point where we can now publish. What I would say is there's been no kind of waiting around in terms of some of the areas that are coming out, and we'll be looking forward to share those as we go forward.
Thanks for those responses, and thanks, Chair. So what's the extent of the challenge back that we've made on the initial findings from the Local Government Association review team? I mean, is it minor, small, moderate, significant, major? Can you scale it? Because notwithstanding the local government reorganisation efforts, I don't know what proportion of staff have had to be actively involved with those. Notwithstanding that, it's a great deal of elapsed time, and I've been engaged in a previous corporate peer assessment, and the response time frame was nowhere near 6 months before the members of that local authority had the feedback that they were expecting.
Difficult to scale in that way. I mean, the vast majority of what's been put forward we've gladly welcomed. I think there are a couple of areas where the wording didn't of particular things didn't tally with the evidence that was set out, and we've gone back for clarification and really kind of trying to pin that down so that we can really understand where we need to focus attention. But as I say, you know, there has been delays on both sides in terms of the correspondence back and forth, just simply because everyone who's involved is currently involved in LGR, and that's had an impact in terms of the time frame. So the draft report was late coming to us, and obviously we've kind of had to take consideration of that in terms of our responses as well.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Thank you for that response. The leader referred, I think, to suggestions or recommendations, including around governance. So what recommendations or suggestions within even the draft report are so important and desirable to implement that we could proceed to implement now and advise members of that before the final report is produced?
So one of the examples that came out was looking through the scheme of delegation. There was one in terms of, for instance, that you'll see that is mentioned within there, that the way rents were agreed lay with the cabinet member rather than kind of the collective cabinet. And so there was an assurance piece done to go through our scheme of delegations to make sure that that was the only such example. And I think through the decision making this time, and I think it was referred to at the cabinet meeting itself, there was a decision to make that kind of as a collective decision. So there were instances like that have been picked out where we've been able to kind of make immediate kind of changes. But I mean, what we're intending to do, what we're happy to do, is to kind of share the correspondence as and when the thing is finalised, so that people can see what's been going on, because there's nothing to hide.
Okay. Thank you, Chair. Thank you for your answer. Is there anything else that could be shared now, given the elapsed time frame that we've been discussing? Is there anything extra that can be shared now beyond the assurance that the report is coming?
I'll come back to the fact that, you know, we're going through it, we can share it. I'm not quite sure what reassurance you'd like.
Councillor Jones.
Chair, I think virtually all the corporate peer challenge peers were either chief executives or leaders of their own council, and literally, and since this year started, there has been virtually no time to do anything. Never mind this in terms of they still have to deal with their own business of usual at council as well. All I would say to Councillor Lanza at the moment is that there's not some huge mysterious reason for why this has taken as long as it has, and I'm very confident that we'll be able to come to an OSC and go through the detail that he will he will require. But with the greatest respect, I didn't come here tonight prepared to, for a full and forensic discussion on the corporate peer challenge. I came here to talk about the general portfolio. I mean, but I do undertake that as and when that this is finalised and published, this council will get every opportunity to go through it and discuss it with myself, the Chief Executive, the Cabinet and everyone associated with it.
Are you okay?
Just one.
If we could...
Just one more thing.
One more.
Yeah, as it were. So just recounting a television series with that expression, obviously. But thank you, Chair. So, a Chief Executive mentioned the prospect of seeing some of the to and fro correspondence. I think that would be good for the Commission to see. That would be my comment.
Yeah, I think there's two fairly significant things there. As Councillor Jones has said, it's strange and unusual times we live in with everybody that was involved in that being so deeply involved with their own local government reorganisation. But also I think the points are pertinent. I hope they're taken on board that we would like to see as soon as possible on the Commission some information. So, okay. Are there any more questions for the Council Leader from councillors? It was always going to be a very open thing given the scale of the brief. So thank you very much for attending and facilitating that opportunity for councillors. So thank you for that discussion. Councillor Jones. Moving on now. Appointments. Moving on to appointments, the Commission is asked to ratify the appointments as documented at Annual Council on the 23rd of May. A representative is required for the Health and Audit Social Care Scrutiny Committee, HASC. We've received a nomination for Councillor Kiran Khan. Is there a proposer for Councillor Khan? Councillor Lunnan. And is there a seconder? I don't mind. Councillor Abu Mosa.
I second.
Sorry, anybody. Please don't feel left out. Are there any other nominations? No. Okay. Is that all agreed? Agreed. Okay. Right. Right. Okay. So, as a result, Councillor Khan has been appointed as the HASC representative. Okay. Forthcoming decisions. The forthcoming decision list is featured on your agenda and also on the Council's website. I will ask Democratic Service Officer to list those that have been referred. So.
Okay, thank you, Chair. So, looking at your agenda, there are 8 reports heading to Cabinet or at the late June meeting, which is the 25th of June. 3 have already been referred to the OSC on the 23rd. They are the off-street parking places consultation, the Corley Homes domestic abuse policy, and Research Drive Phase 2. The other reports that are heading to Cabinet are the Corley Homes mutual exchange policy. You may remember there was a detailed discussion at the last meeting and the Commission decided not to refer this one and instead referred the asset strategy, which is now heading to September. Forward programme of key procurements for the next 6 months, stock condition survey programme, affordable housing opportunity acquisition, and asset management budget update 25-26. So of those remaining reports, are there any you wish to refer, including mutual exchange, if you wish that one again? And can you let me know why, please?
Councillor Lunnon.
I'd like to look at item 6, the affordable housing opportunity acquisition, which would be in part B. Do you want me to say why?
If you'd like to, yes.
No, I'm fine.
You need to let the officer know.
Well, I think it might be quite a significant development within a certain area of Crawley. I don't know for certain. I can't see. All I can see is it's an affordable housing opposition. So it's quite hard to know exactly what it is without seeing some more detail. But yeah.
Are there any others?
Stock condition. You would have off-street parking, Crawley Homes domestic abuse, Breezehurst Drive, and affordable housing.
It's 4, isn't it?
Yes.
I think, doesn't it also say at the bottom, we'll also receive the Crawley Homes annual tenant satisfaction measures report? Or at least it does on the agenda. Yeah, so it's 5 items.
Okay, we'll take those then forward to the meeting on the 23rd, I think it is. Supplementary agenda, there is no supplementary agenda. So with the business of the Overview and Scrutiny Commission of the 2nd of June concluded, the meeting is now closed at 8:22. Thank you very much. Thank you.